If you've been wanting to declutter a space in your home, but every time you think about it, your brain just stops, this one is for you.
Nikki just put together a free guide called Where Do I Even Begin? And it is exactly what it sounds like. A practical, ADHD-friendly starting point for anyone who keeps meaning to declutter, but cannot figure out how to actually get into it.
No overwhelming to-do list, no judgment about how it got this way. Just a clear, honest framework for getting started. Built for the brain that knows what it wants to do and cannot figure out how to start.
Grab it free at takecontroladhd.com/ADHD-declutter.
All right, on with the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on True Story FM. I'm Pete Wright. I'm here with Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Pete Wright. Pete D. Wright.
Pete D. Wright. That's what they call me, sometimes too fast, but that is what they call me. And we are going to talk today about some good stuff. Yeah.
We are, but you know what? Before we talk about that, I think you should introduce to our audience a little project that you've been working on.
Gosh, really? On the public show?
On the public show.
Oh, my goodness.
We are here to support Pete D. Wright.
Well, all right. Okay. Tamp down the imposter syndrome that
right?
rushes
I know.
up to my face when you say that.
Just so the audience knows,
yeah.
He was not expecting me to say this.
Nope, this is a mean trick. So for the last little while, I've been working on a story of fiction. It is science fiction, and it is it's a novella. It's an easy, quick read, and it's a book that I have published that's out there in the world, and it's called Lattice, a novella by Pete D. Wright. And you can get it right now on Amazon and other places coming soon. But I'm very, very excited about my entry into the world of being a struggling fiction writer. That's another piece of the Pete pie.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is great. So yes, everyone get that book. Support Pete, listen or read his science fiction.
Yeah. And the question that has come up before, which I have not had a good answer to, is will there be an audiobook? And I don't know. Because it would be me doing it. And
right.
I'm very busy, and audiobooks are hard to produce singly. And so
I bet you're not going to do it immediately, but I bet it's going to be in the works at some point. That's my guess.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But I'm very excited about just sort of testing the waters and seeing what it's like out there. Yeah. It's really, really fun. I'm very enthusiastic about the whole process. I did self-publish it, and I am grateful to have been able to do that because I've learned so much about the backside of the business of books. And I have to say, I love it. Like, having gone through both ways, I really, really love it. And so I'm eager to have some people out there with it in their hands. It's a awesome little thing. It's really great.
And guess what we're going to talk about today?
What?
That has to do with the other book that you co-wrote.
I did. Yes.
We're going to talk about planning.
We're going to talk about planning and why your plans fall apart. And I'm very excited about that too, because 'tis the season for us to talk about planning. We've got a little series coming up. We've got a threefer. Got a little trilogy of planning episodes that are coming up this week and the next 2 weeks to follow. Before we get into the show, we got to talk about our Patreon community, because if you're a regular listener, this is it's probably your next move. Members to our Patreon community get early access to every episode. They get access to our member-only channels in Discord and a seat in the live stream, where you can join us for the recordings of the show. You can ask questions to our guests and to us in the chat as we record, and we throw in special events on the way all the time. But honestly, the thing we hear people talk about the most isn't any of that. It's the community itself. This is a group of amazing people, all of them living with ADHD, who show up for each other in a way that is just really special. If you've ever wanted to be more than just a listener, this is where that happens. Visit patreon.com/theADHD podcast to learn more and join us. And if you decide you're not ready for that, that's great too. You can find us on takecontroladhd.com, connect with us on the socials, and join us in Discord on the free side, and sign up for our weekly email. We'd love to have you wherever you land. Nikki Kinzer, why do your plans fall apart?
This is the first of our series, and I'm of course thrilled to be talking about it. And why do our plans fall apart? That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. But I want to set the stage a little bit. I'm going to start with you, Pete. Share with the audience a personal story from you where you felt like, your planning fell apart, and maybe it like you detoured and shut down, or maybe you like looked at it and thought, no, I can pick up the pieces and everything will be okay. Like, share with us.
Well,
what is your planning disasters like?
We're sort of living in it right now. So it's very raw, because many of our members will know we're dealing with the year-long result of the ravages of a family of giant raccoons on our house, and the cascading failures. Well, we're starting the reconstruction part. And so part of our kitchen has been torn out. Yesterday, they came and pulled apart much of our deck. They're supposed to come start re-siding the house and painting it. But because just because of things falling apart, things continue to sort of fall apart. And what I think we don't recognize, what I'll speak for myself, what I can forget because my ADHD brain has other plans often for me, is that cascading failures in one area cause cascading failures in others. And I often try to ignore the relationship between those two. So when the house is falling apart, I tend not to stay on top of my task list the way I pride myself on that I do day to day. And things slow down just because of the cognitive load of living in uncertainty and what that does to
major disruption.
Yeah, major disruption. And it is incredibly challenging to do that, right? That's the dominoes of planning. If you and it makes me reflect on something we've talked about a bunch, reflect on margin and the sort of value, the future value of time, right? Like how much margin I have is directly related to how much recovery I have and how soon I'll be able to find myself back on top of things when things go south. So I would say right now we're in the middle of construction planning that is deeply uncertain and involves way too many people for me to be comfortable. And yet we're finding our way through it, and it is distressing.
Yeah.
That's probably a muddy story for your question because I'm still living right in it, but it's all I'm thinking about, right?
Well, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I would say that it's interesting because, you have that connection between what's going on in home and how that affects things that are happening in your professional life and vice versa. And we forget that when one is in chaos, the other one is going to go in chaos too. But yet you feel like it shouldn't be because like they shouldn't be connected, but they are, of course.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. It's interesting because I see one of the biggest challenges I think I see with clients when the plans fall apart is that we forget that we're trying to predict the future. And so when you make a plan, you're basing it on the information that you have right now.
Yeah.
And that's going to change. And we forget how much it changes. And what I notice most is that when it changes, a lot of people will then take that as a personal failure, that they did something wrong because they didn't account for the interruptions or the distractions, or they didn't account for something taking longer than they expected. Yeah. They think it's their fault when really in reality, it just took longer than what they expected, or they got interrupted and you didn't know that your child was going to be sick or was going to be banging down your door, So yeah, I think that's we have a lot to talk about today. Really.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Because there's
Yeah.
a lot of reasons why. And so
Yeah.
I hope that for this particular episode, I hope we can bring some awareness. And what I really hope is that people take away that this is not their fault. It's not a personal failure. And have a little bit more understanding of how their brain works and go from there.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I brought up the book, Unapologetically ADHD, because we talk a lot about this in the book. And I think, one of the reasons that we wrote the book that was important is because we're never really taught how to plan, how to use a calendar or how to use a to-do list or a task manager. And if you have been taught how to plan, if you go to any type of productivity book or planning book, they're not taking your ADHD in consideration, except for our book. Our book,
That's
we consider
one.
your ADHD.
Right.
But for the most part, they're not. And so naturally, what people are doing is they're planning like they don't have ADHD. They're overcompensating their day because they're not taking into account their ADHD, and they probably already feel behind. They probably already feel like they're missing things. And so there's a lot that is going on. So let's think of it this way. If you have an instruction manual, but half of it is in a language that you can't read, right? So you've got one is English, the other is, I don't know, French, and you don't read French, you're going to be missing things. You're going to be missing things. And it's not a character flaw. It's a gap that just hasn't been filled. You don't understand it. You can't see it. You can't apply it. Right. And then, of course, there's this internal voice that shows up every time the planning falls apart. And this is what I was talking about before, is that I should be able to do this. Everyone else manages their time so nicely. What is wrong with me? And who are the people that we're comparing ourselves to?
Yeah, it's a great question. Fantasy
Right.
Pete?
Yeah,
Pretty much
Fantasy Pete. Or, a colleague that doesn't have ADHD. That's not very fair.
Yeah.
Friends who mask really well.
Yeah.
Colleagues who are masking, because we always think that the grass is greener on the other side, but we really don't know. We don't know what their internal struggles are, but it looks like everything's going really well. And that's who we're comparing ourselves. And there's just this exhaustion, right, of performing. And when you're still really struggling.
My comparisons to Fantasy Pete invariably end in a moral failing.
Mm-hmm.
That I am, the fact that I'm incapable, but the guy in my head surely would have been capable, ends up making me feel like I've failed on an existential level, right? That's the shame part. And that, honestly, if I could let go 100% of the time, and I'm really a lot better at this now than I was 25 years ago. But I think, speaking more broadly, if I let go of that feeling of letting down someone so dramatically that it feels like the weight of the world is on my shoulders, the exhaustion becomes much less paralyzing, right? It's not as big of a deal because I have the energy to recover.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because the opposite of that, if you stay in the shame spiral, then it's making it harder for you to try again next time, right?
Yeah.
Because what's happening is that's what your memory, you're remembering that and you're holding on to that. And then there's that thought of, well, why am I going to try a new planner? Why am I going to try a new system? It doesn't work. It never has. And so it just compounds, over the years, over all of this time that everything has failed. Why am I going to just add another failure? And so what I love about what you're saying is that if you can start to move away from that, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah.
And let go of some of that, then you're able to move forward and you're able to,
It's to let go of that which is imaginary, right?
these high
focus
expectations.
on the fact and truth, right? The fact and truth is I'm here, I'm present in my skin, I'm capable of making change in my life. That's all I need to worry about because I have all the resources I need to do the next thing on my list.
Right.
How I feel about those things in a time of crisis is irrelevant to me getting them done. It just weighs me down.
Yes.
And there's a great Ricky Jay line in the movie The Spanish Prisoner, which probably one person in our audience right now has seen and loves as much as I do. But he says, don't worry. Worry is interest paid on a debt that never comes due. That is so true. We're just collecting interest and no one will ever, ever come calling for that interest, like that emotional weight.
Yeah.
It serves no one.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a powerful little quote.
Right? More people should have seen that movie.
No, at least they got the quote. That's good.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Our job is done.
Our job is done.
All right. I'm going to talk about some things that really go into the reason why planning tends to fall apart. And
Okay.
it's not shiny, but it's important to understand because this really is the how your brain is working. And so we have these executive functions, right? That are the basically the management system of your brain. So they're the part that helps you start things. They help you switch between things, that transition time that we need in recovery time. They keep track of things. They manage your time. But for most people, this system runs pretty quietly in the background. You don't even notice that it's working. For ADHD brains, it doesn't run quietly, and sometimes it doesn't run at all. So if we think about that GPS that has gone like wonky and is having you go into all these detours, and you may still get to the same place, but boy, was it a ride to get there. And so that's what's happening with these executive functions. And there's specific ones that are very related and connected to planning, and time blindness is one of them. When you have a hard time understanding how long something's going to take or how much time has passed, it's really hard to plan for that. And we get stuck in that cycle of, I don't know how long something's going to take, so I really can't plan for it. But yet I try to, and it takes longer than what I thought. And so I've planned for too much on my day. Right. So that's always going to get us because time blindness is real and it's really hard to plan when you're not sure.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is lean into that not being sure and plan a little bit differently. We'll talk later about that. But that time blindness is definitely one of those things.
Yeah. And the thing about time blindness is it is insidious because it impacts us at a micro level, at a task level, and at a global level, at a day, week, month level. And it's very difficult because it scales effortlessly. It seems like all the other stuff that we deal, all the other problems, the things that affect our planning are like we can at least target them. But time blindness is the one that feels almost least in our control.
It is, because you really don't know how long something's going to take you until you're in it. Right. Or you don't know.
And at any given time, we don't know how time is affecting our brain while we're doing it.
And what if you get into hyper-focus mode?
Right.
And now time is just a blur, but you got a lot done, which is great. But it really definitely impacts, how you plan. Working memory is also a huge factor. This is when it's difficult to hold multiple tasks or details in your mind while planning. And so we talked about memory, right? We've talked about memory in the aging series, but this is a true ADHD challenge, regardless of how old you are. We don't want to keep things in our mind. You will forget them. They will get lost. They will get, or they'll get remembered at the wrong time. And so this working memory is definitely an issue that we have to consider. Planning and prioritization is an executive function. We're talking about planning kind of as a whole, but it is hard to decide the priorities.
Right.
We talk a lot about this in our GPS membership program around, what is the most important task, or what's an urgent task, what's important, what is a task that needs to be um, put away and not looked at. And it's really hard to know that when you have ADHD, because everything feels important, everything feels urgent, because you are going back to that feeling of being behind.
Yeah.
You're seeing cascading tasks, you're seeing due dates that maybe they're real, maybe they're not, but you're seeing them, and it's all a blur, and it's really difficult to know what. Giving advice to somebody and just saying, okay, let's go pick out our 3 most important tasks without any kind of like education around how to do that is really difficult, because they all feel important.
Yeah.
The organization piece, difficulty creating and maintaining systems that keep information accessible. So when we talk about our workbox in our book, we're talking about the organization of our planning tools. We're talking about how do we organize our calendar? How do we work in our task managers? When this executive function isn't working well, it is really hard to maintain those systems. And then we think it's our fault, or we think, well, I should say, and we think it's the tool's fault.
Mm-hmm.
And now we need to get a new tool.
Yep.
Which is not, and we're going to talk about tools next week.
Okay, good.
But that,
as somebody who's a recovering toolaholic.
Yes. Well, yes, exactly. Then we have this cognitive flexibility, trouble adjusting when the plan goes awry, when it goes wrong, it changes course. That is so difficult, because you run into the all or nothing thinking that ADHD holds very dearly. If my plan doesn't go well in the morning, my whole day is ruined. If I have to take a day off for some reason, then I am a whole day behind. If even like people, what I'll see is like, if people will take a day off and they think that they have to put 5 working days in 4 working days, which is not reasonable, but they're having trouble adjusting to that.
Yeah.
And so when they go wrong, when you have home stuff that you're working on and it takes away from work stuff, that is really hard to adjust. It's hard to figure out like what's realistic, because you can't get everything done on Friday that you had planned to get done in 5 days.
Yeah.
But we think we can.
Again, I think it goes back to our fantasy Pete, right? Because fantasy Pete can totally do that, because he wields time like a saber.
Yes.
He can do whatever he wants with time. He can make 4 days fit into 3. Of course he can.
Of course.
He makes those decisions all the time.
Yeah.
And he's successful at it.
Right.
Oh, God. That guy. Nobody likes him at parties, though. He's tough hang.
Well, speaking of parties, then you have these emotional regulation, right? You're overwhelmed, you're frustrated, you shut down when it feels like it's too much, you avoid. That can get you in trouble. RSD, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's going to shine bright when your plans don't go the way that you expect them to, or you take on too much and now you have to disappoint somebody. That fear of rejection and disappointing somebody else is heavy. And then we've got the sustained attention. You have ADHD. There's going to be distractions, and it's going to be hard to stay focused on some of these things because we're planning like we don't have ADHD. So we're thinking, we may put in a 2-hour time block thinking this is going to be deep work. This is going to be really great. I'm going to focus on this. And then all of a sudden, you can't focus.
Yeah.
The buzzing in the office is bugging you, or you can hear, the kids playing outside and you want to go play with them. Like that's more fun,
Mostly the kids are inside playing video games, and I want to go outside and play
and have
alone.
some fun.
Yeah,
right.
Just have some fun. I want to jump in some leaves. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So when you start to really consider, okay, ADHD is not just one thing. It's not just distractions. It's a lot of things that are going on when you're trying to plan. It starts to make more sense of why this is difficult. And what I hope is, again, that people can start taking away some of that self-blame and and start really understanding what's happening in their
Yeah.
brain. There's
Yeah.
also this thing that we talk about in the book, your flavor of ADHD. What do you think when we wrote that? What were your thoughts around the message that you wanted to share?
Well, I I think that we spend a lot of time thinking diagnostically because that's how
Mhm.
we're taught to think when we are approaching our ADHD when we're diagnosed or when we first start evaluating the um, the specifics of the way ADHD impacts our lives. And I think it's important to step back and think about, it's more nuanced than that. It's more nuanced than just a diagnostic. And to figure out what our own rhythms are with our ADHD, to figure out, maybe it's as practical as when am I actually productive in any given day? When are my most productive days during the week? They're not the same for everybody. And those sprints of productivity probably come in unpredictable times. But, you can start to read the tea leaves. You may be as consistent as the weather, but that doesn't mean you can't start to see patterns. And that's what living with ADHD confidently really is pattern recognition. It's trying to
Mhm.
figure out how your body and your brain respond to stimulus in a way that is effective and not ineffective or maladaptive. And so that's what we're talking about. That's what I'm thinking about, and
Absolutely.
maybe
Oh,
it's also
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, it's also when I think those concepts that we wrote about now 3 years ago
Mhm.
age on us, and I think about them. I think maybe I'm evolving the way I think about them from the point they were put in print, but
Mhm.
that's where my head is right now.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and I think it is looking for those patterns and what it means to you. Like what works with your brain rhythms? What works with your energy patterns?
Hmm.
What kinds of natural tendencies do you just have instead of like working against them? How do you lean into them? You do
Hmm.
need recovery time. When we talked about the opportunity cost, a while back, and that was a big, I think highlight of that show is that we need not only buffer time and transition time between tasks, but the harder the task is, the more focus you have on it, the more recovery time that we need to have, and learning more about yourself, I think makes a big difference. And so that's what we definitely mean. I agree with you about the flavor of ADHD, and I think that the one of the takeaways I want people to have here is letting go from shame to curiosity,
Hmm.
right? When we can start to be curious about these patterns and our energy levels, and okay, what would happen if I didn't have 10 things on my list? Um, and really start thinking about, instead of what's wrong with me, but ask what does your brain actually need here? What is the friction? We talk about friction a lot on the show, and I talk about friction a lot in the GPS program. What is stopping you from doing something? And instead of ignoring it and going and avoiding it and just kind of continue living it with it as is, once we actually start sitting there and thinking about what's the friction, then we can get to a little bit more of what can I do about it. Um, and that makes a big difference because it's not your fault, right? It's not your fault. We got to figure out what the options are, what's going on,
Yeah, it's not your fault, but it is yours. It's
but
not
it
your
is
fault,
yours.
but it is yours. This is a
Yeah.
thing that amazes me that I do and that really, really bright people living with ADHD do that stems from this shame bit, which is it looks something like this. I'm really busy. Like I have way too many tasks on my list, but they're all urgent tasks. They're like urgent for today, and I have to do them. And I say, well, um, how much time do you have? Well, I've got meetings that I have to be at. I have to be at these meetings for like 6 straight hours today. So really, I have about an hour and a half. Then I'm on a commute for 2 hours. So I have an hour and a half to do all these tasks. And then I say, well, how long do you think it'll take to do those tasks? He said, oh, easily a day. And then I say, well, do you see how those things are not those two items are not cooperating with one another. If it takes you a day, but you functionally only have an hour and a half, you will not be able to do those things. The response is, but I have to.
Yes.
That is where it's broken.
Yes.
That's it. And you know, the only thing you can be sure of on days like that, weeks like that, months like that, is that at the end of the day, week, month, when you're exhausted, you will feel wrong and you will have let down people in your effort to maintain a sham.
Yeah.
I talk about that with people all the time, and I am stunned that this is a thing that I say we are living with, because they're not alone. I'm not alone. I do it to myself, but it doesn't even matter. Once you see it in somebody else, it doesn't matter whether or not you can see it in yourself. It's just the muscle you have to build on your own.
And get comfortable with that, right? Like, to get comfortable with it. All of a sudden, what you felt like has to get done, you realize it doesn't.
Yeah.
And you have to be comfortable with that, whatever that means. And that's, yeah.
And
Go
would
ahead.
you be more comfortable just going about your day, having taken that hour and a half in the morning and let everybody know
Yeah.
it's just not going to get done because I'm a human being and
Yep.
I'm out of time?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
Good.
it doesn't mean I don't care about this thing. It just means I have to make choices. Today is
Right.
not your day.
You have to make choices.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I do it.
Good stuff.
It's really good stuff. Yeah, it's a muscle. All of this is a muscle. That's what
Absolutely.
this whole trilogy is going to be about over the next 3 weeks. We're talking about stuff,
Mhm.
and you did it again. You spun up a thing.
I did. And it's such a creative title.
Oh, do tell.
I know, it really isn't.
Do we need to workshop this again live?
Yeah, it's really funny because I looked at the title. I'm like, wow, it doesn't sound fancy at all.
Yeah.
But what it is, it's a short reflection worksheet to go with today's episode. It's 4 questions to help you connect what we talked about today to your own experience, right? So I think that's the key, is what is your experience? And it is called Your Planning Reflection. How fancy is that? I am so fancy.
So good.
And you can find it in our show notes. And also, just a reminder, in case you didn't know, we wrote a book about planning called Unapologetically ADHD. Go get it. If you don't have it yet.
It's still on shelves.
Yep.
Somebody likes it. They're stocking it. They're
stocking it. Yep. It's still there.
Yep. Awesome. That's in the show notes too. We sure appreciate you. We appreciate your time and your attention for hanging with us this week, for starting this little trilogy with us, talking about planning. And I promise, as we continue to go, we'll feel better about planning. We'll feel better.
Yes.
Things can get better. So stick with us. Don't forget, if you have something to contribute to this conversation, we're heading over to the Show Talk channel in the Discord server, and you can join us right there by becoming a supporting member at the deluxe level or better. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete D. Wright, and we'll see you right back here next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.